So we are in the home stretch. Our last speaker this evening has more than 25 years experience in the construction and real estate development industry. Dave Williams recently joined Miller Valentine Group, where he's going to lead their urban development efforts. Prior to that, he had a stint with Director of Downtown Market Rate Housing at Citywide Development. Dave cut his teeth in hacking our city as co-lead of the development of the Cannery and also as the Director of Development of the 2nd Street Market. Can you think of two more fantastic buildings in Dayton than that? So please join me in welcoming our next speaker, Dave Williams.
We don't have great places like this. So, it was funny. I was taking a look at the word hack and just thinking of all the unique words. This is a really crazy word. And how do we use hack? You got a golf hacker. You got a crazy hacker today, right? You got all these weird kind of things. I'm thinking, let alone hacking buildings. And so as we start to look at this term and how it kind of dovetails into our world and where we can have even natural events hack our city like the 1913 flood, because it changed the way we looked at the river, that changed the way the river played in our lives in downtown. So interesting, the result of that created a whole other organization called the Miami Conservancy District, which really started to reset the way we worked with the river and really changed the river's even look and flow today. If you look at that bottom picture, how different the river is today than it was in there. So I kind of look at that as our first hacking of downtown, where we really didn't even have anything to do with it. It just happened all by itself. But it's interesting between what Matt was talking about, what Tony was talking about, and looking at our city before we came back from the war, before the highways really started to show up, and look at all the letterform buildings and the way this downtown used to look. So the 1940s was a pretty unique downtown, and I'd love to have a lot of those buildings back, believe it or not, because they're really connected to people. And it's a very different type of architecture and very type of done. So the war, we win the war, and we're empowered. We're empowered in a way that just gives us the ability to want to maybe even have some kids, because we've had a long time before we've had a great kiss. So we come back, we're ready to do things, we're ready to make things happen, but we've also learned a lot when we were across the pond. We started to see the 1950s and the way that we were starting to rethink about how we connect to our city, and all of a sudden the city wasn't quite as attractive to many of us. The 1950s was starting to move away from downtown, which really started to change the whole format in the way that we address downtown and what happened with downtown. So, the Jetsons, great period of time, but it also was the way we were thinking of how we're going to be cool, what's going to be new, what's going to be exciting, and how highways are going to play into our new world of the future. Learned from the Audubon when we were over there beating those guys up. See how we go. So 1960s show up, I-35 or State Route 35 starts to do our first hack going east-west, and then before you know it, we got another great highway coming through, I-75, which will be a big hack to the north-south. Splitting our city in lots of different ways, taking great neighborhoods, actually separating South Park from Oregon District, and really changing the way that we used our downtowns. And really, to me, those are some of the next round of hacks that we self-inflicted and have really permanently changed the way we address the downtown and the way things work and how we really just have to get through it. So you've seen this slide before. You can tell I work with Tony and all those great guys. This is where we were going. We were going to start wiping everything out, start really rethinking, who we were, because it was out with the old, in with the new, because it just didn't resonate for all these people that had come back and said, we want to be bigger, better, because we win. But thanks to Jane Jacobs, who really started to reset the way we thought, because had Jane not really intervened here, we would have actually probably continued on this path of demolition and started to really move us. So she was really our first anti-hacker to come into play and across the nation start to take urban renewal and reverse the process and take it away, because this was something that they loved to do. This was happening all over town in Dayton, but all over cities across the United States. Key component to where we end up, as you see how many leveled buildings there were, if you remember that first photo of the 1940s, and now you're looking at our downtown then. Very, very different in what has happened. So all of a sudden, we got an oh shit moment, and the suburbs are starting to show up. We better do something pretty quick because we're actually anticipating a major threat by the suburbs. Malls are starting to show up. Another major threat, retail is beginning to move out of downtowns and start to move out to these cornfields of Dayton Mall. Now, been there many times. But we kept going. We decided, hey, well, let's throw in I-675 just to add a little bit more pressure to downtown because that's not going to affect office space and things like downtown. And it just continued to go and to go and to go. As we continue to move forward, we just are looking at this and trying to figure out what to do. So we had two great, really visionaries from Dayton, Ohio, both Gene Woodall and Alice Woodward. If you've known them or met them over the years, they were instrumental. Gene, very instrumental in saving the Oregon District. Alice, very instrumental in a lot of the preservation movement. Those two women alone were really holding on to the DNA and the historic fabric because they understood the importance of that. Without them, we wouldn't have this place, our #1 downtown entertainment district in downtown, key to really saying that we have a place of vibrancy downtown. Our best restaurants, they continue to show up. And without that, we don't have much of a story to tell downtown as far as excitement and things. Now, things have definitely changed over the years, but it was for them. So here we are, 30 years forward, and all of a sudden we're back to this conversation that demolition is the answer to solving this vacancy issue. Because if you don't know, we have a lot of buildings downtown that are truly challenged. So if we really took this approach and just started to remove buildings in order to solve vacancy problem, we would start removing all these buildings. Every one of these have really major vacancy issues. Can you imagine if we started to level these type things? What we were able to do, though, we were able to really start to show what this meant. And what this meant was the city was going to have to write a $20 million check. What this meant was we were throwing millions of dollars into the landfill. So we provide vision. We're moving forward. We're hoping that this vision of 2020 is really something that we can achieve, and that as we move forward, we know that our really value add is who and what we're going to be as we move forward. And as you look back and you listen to Richard Florida and what he has to say, you know, the place we choose to live affects every aspect of our being. It can determine the income we earn, the people we meet, the friends we make, and the partners we choose, the options available for our children and family. We're here to make this place great. We're here to rehack it one more time. We rehack it in a way that will keep us going forward. Thanks.